Welcome guys to today's video. This is my top 30 board games that I'm currently playing. We haven't done a lot of board game videos on this channel, so I'm looking forward to giving you guys what my current top 30 board games that I love playing that I recommend to you guys. Let's go ahead and check it out.
Gaming tech, eating brekkie is the gaming tech. Going for a recce is the gaming tech. Gaming techie is the gaming tech. Gaming techie.
Alright guys, so today we're here to talk about our top 25 board games. You can see that there's a lot of board games here behind me. I have currently over like 250 board games here, but things come and go now. So these are my top 25 games that I currently think are in my top 25. They're not in any sort of order, like number one is not number one. They're just top 25 in general. These are what I'm currently playing right now. Also look forward to a video later this year that I'll be doing a separate video, which is going to be my top 10 or 20, depending on how many I reach and how many games I end up liking, that are specifically for this year, which we'll do obviously at the end of the year. So that will be a different list and different set of games. These are my top 25 games currently playing. These actually change all the time because this is actually board game season right now. So that means that there's new games actually coming in right now. I actually just played a couple that recently came out that I know are already high on my list and are not on this list yet because I just haven't played them enough. But, you know, next year they probably will be. So this list will be ever-changing, so we'll obviously be doing this sometime in the future again in a year's time or whatever it may be to give you guys an updated 25 board games that I'm currently playing. Because, as you can tell, there's a lot behind me and I'm always updating and changing things out. This is topped out, basically. So every time I get a new game, you know, usually things have to come out and get sold and make room for new stuff. So I don't buy as much as I used to because I don't have any room. So now I'm picky and choosy because things usually have to go. Anyway. Let's go ahead and get into number one, guys. That is Spyfall 2. Spyfall 2 is a great party game. I fell in love with Spyfall 1. That was an 8-player game, and Spyfall 2 came out and basically added 12 players, and they added 2 different spies in the game that can currently be in the game. And basically what this game is like is that you have up to 12 people playing. You're all at a location, basically, and the spy doesn't know what location he's at, and everyone else knows what location he's at. And you're asking questions back and forth, and the spy's trying to listen in and figure out what location he's in before people figure out that he doesn't know where he is and who the spy is around the table. It's a great party game. A lot of different variety in the game as far as there's like 25 locations, I think, or 20 in Spyfall 2. So a lot of different variety in there and a lot of cool things in that game. Next one I have here is Bitter Up. Bitter Up is one of my favorite, if not my only one on this list that I currently love to play, bidding games, basically. This is a full-size board game, and basically it's a 4-player? Yeah, it's a 4-player game, and basically you're bidding on animals around the board, trying to get the most expensive animals to be able to sell them at the end of the game and get the most amount of money for it. But the bidding is all done in different ways, so the first bidding game that are around the table is different ones. So it could be a normal bidding, where, you know, the one you're used to, where you go, hey, who wants it for 200, who wants it for 300, who wants it for 400? Or it could be, you know, other different type of variations, like whoever bids the highest, or whoever, I'm trying to think what different variations of ones on there. There's ones that you have to secretly bid, so everybody will put all their coins in their hand and nobody knows how much is in their hand. They close their hand and then everyone reveals at the same time, and whoever put the most money towards it wins. So you're trying to buy these animals and get as many animals as possible for the cheapest price, and, you know, depending on what their value is at the end of the game is how much you end up winning. So that's another really good game. It's definitely my favorite bidding game currently at the moment, and a lot of fun. Cash and Guns has been around for a while. This is specifically on the 2nd edition. Basically, it is another party game. It goes up to 8 people, I believe. I don't know if it's 8 or 9 off the top of my head, but basically, this is a great party game. Basically, it's whoever has the most money at the end of the game. Everyone gets this plastic foam gun that you can see here. Everyone gets one on the count of 3. There's a sheriff around the table, and on the count of 3, everyone points at someone that they're shooting at, and you have different bluffs in the game, so you only have 3 shots that you can actually take. Every other token that you actually have is a bluff, and you choose one before you go 1, 2, 3, and then you're trying to bluff the players to get out of the round because you can only win money if you actually stay in the round, but you obviously only have 3 hits. If you take 3 hits, you're out of the game, so you won't be able to win any more money if that happens. So you're trying to, you know, mess with people and see when you're actually going to use your bullets and when you're not going to use your bullets to get them to quit out of that round, so you can take as much money as possible because you'll go around the table collecting the money that's in the center. Obviously, the less people that are in it, the more money everyone's going to get. So that's basically what the game is. It's a whole lot of fun. Number 4 on our list is Captain Sonar, another 8-player game, another party game. There's a lot of party games on here because I like to play a lot of my board games with either, just a quick note, it's either my wife who plays this with me, so we play a lot of 2-player games. It's either a family night where my family plays. So obviously, I introduce them to a lot of different variety from very easy to medium. Not really keen too much on introducing them to very, very hard stuff, but so you'll see a lot of like party games, medium weight games, and regular games. The heavyweight games usually tend to go to just me and my wife, and sometimes there's a couple of people that I also play with in the circle of my friends who also like to play a variety of games that I throw with them. So that's basically why you see a lot of games like this on my list. Anyway, back to the list. So Captain Sonar is a great party game. It was a hit of last year, and it is basically Battleship. If you guys have played Battleship when you were a kid, think of Battleship, and now it's a 4v4. You got 4 people on this side, 4 people on that side. Everyone has their own different roles. One's an engineer, one's a captain, and all that stuff. And you're screaming back and forth. The captain will say, "Hey, we're moving to C12," and then everyone marks it on their board. And it's a real-time game. There's no actual turns in the game. Is the main way you should be playing the game. You could play turn by turn if you want to, just to get a gist of the game. But the game is meant to be played as a real-time game, and you're obviously trying to figure out where the other person's ship is on the map without being able to know where they are, and you're firing torpedoes and firing cannons and dropping mines and stuff like that, moving around, trying to not get caught by the enemy team, and it's just crazy, and your enemy team's conversing, and it's a really heavy communication game. You have to communicate with your team because your engines may go out, your torpedoes may go out, and you have to communicate with the captain back and forth and the engineers and stuff to figure out what's working and what isn't. Crazy, fun game, definitely the party game that was played a lot. And like I said, it was a hit of 2017, so definitely check that one out. Now, the Century series, I have Century Golem, and I actually will be getting Century Spicy Road with the new one that came out recently. But Century Golem is a special edition that came out that they released. Basically, if you guys have ever played a game like Splendor and stuff like that, it's very reminiscent of that. Basically, it's a 4-player game, and you go in there, and it's a engine building game. So you're taking cards in front of the table you start with a small hand of cards, and you're buying cards off the table by placing gems down, and they will produce more gems for you, produce more quantity gems, because there's 4 different variety of gems that you're trying to collect in this game. There's green, gold, and stuff like that, and obviously some are worth more than others. So some of the cards you will build will let you say, hey, trade a pink for 2 gold, or trade 2 pinks and get a pink, 2 gold, and a blue, stuff like that. And you're engine building this to be able to get as many gems as you can, because at the top there's going to be 4 goals that you're going. I think there's 4 or 5 goals that you're going for, and they give you points, and it's whoever has the most points at the end of the game. And those goals will say, hey, you need 5 of this gem and 8 of this gem and 3 of this gem, and that will give you 16 points, kind of thing. So it's an engine building game. It looks fantastic. It has a nice playmat that I have with this game that really makes it stand out, and the gems and stuff like that on the cards look absolutely amazing. On the Golem edition, that's why they made it, because people were obsessed with the art. But Spice Road is the actual game that will get future expansions. The Golem edition may not, and it's going to be hard to be compatible with Spicy Road and stuff like that. Spicy Road actually just got an expansion that came out here like a month ago, and actually combine it, so you can actually combine all the games together. So just keep that in mind. Golem I chose because of the art. So Clank in Space is number 6. Now, Clank in Space is also a 4-player game, and I really, really like this game. When I got this game, I believe it was late last year. It's basically a deck-building game, but you have a giant spaceport that you're running around, and you're trying to basically get an artifact, and get as many artifacts as possible, but you're pushing your luck because you have damage that you're taking. That's why the game is called Clank. Basically, every time that a Clank symbol comes up on one of the cards, you have to put a bunch of gem or a bunch of cubes that you've already used into the bag, and if yours comes up, you're taking damage. And you take as many out on the bag as depending on what level the Clank is currently at the game. And you're trying to, buy cards and do different things with cards to be able to get there faster, open up some doors and stuff like that. But it's a race to go from one side of the board to the other, grab an artifact, and if you want to get even more artifacts, go get more. But you have to be able to get those artifacts, go all the way back to the other side of the board without dying, make it back to the open doors. Because if you die and your treachery back to go back to the open doors, you can't even win the game. So it's a crazy deck building game with a racing mechanic in there. And it's just a really, really solid game. I really like this game. This is easily one of my favorite games that I played recently. It's really a lot of fun. The theme's great. And the cards and all that stuff is very unique to other deck building games out there. And the mechanic of running around the board and actually moving around the board is also very different to other deck building games that are just deck building in general. This one actually has a board, and you're moving around in there and stuff. So, excellent game with that. The next one on the list is called Champions of Midgard. It's also a 4-player game. One thing to mention with this game, I'll say right off the bat, Champions of Midgard is a great game on its own, But Valhalla, the expansion that came out, brought it to that next level, added more cards and more stuff like that. But it also made a lot of the things that people don't like is like some of these are games sometimes rely on dice rolls, which would mean there's luck in the game. And when you had bad dice rolls in this game, you didn't get any reward for it. This one, the expansion fixes that and lets you actually get rewarded for the people that die based on bad die rolls and stuff like that. So definitely check out the expansion because it takes it to that next level, as a lot of people have said. Basically, Champions of Midgard is another deck builder that you're trying to, build your deck, fight monsters and stuff like that. You can see here on the board, it just looks, it's a very good looking game. You're trying to build buildings and, get more powerful and beat these monsters and stuff. Really solid 4-player deck building game. A lot of different options in this one as well. Cult Express is another party game on this list, and this one is a 3D train that sits in front of you. You basically build these trains in front of you. It takes a little bit to set up, but basically this is an action selection game. Basically everyone gets a hand of cards. Everyone has almost a similar hand of cards, and you basically put them in the order that you want to play them, and then you put them in a stack, and then one person takes a stack, reveals them, and all those actions take place. And basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to shoot the other members that are on the train that are your people that you're playing against. So try and get the most money at the end of the game so they drop their loot and shoot them. There's an upper part of the train and the bottom part of the train. And it's a really solid action selection game with the cards that you're dealt. So you get to pick the cards that you're going to play. You put them in the order that you think you need them. And what really makes this game fun is that you obviously don't play the card and then do the action itself. You don't know what everyone else is playing. So you're trying to figure out what you think your opponents are going to do, because you can play a card that says, for example, move to the right, and then the next person underneath you says pick up what's there, like pick up the money bag that's there, and then you're going to the next side of and then everyone puts all those cards down. Now those cards get flipped over. So my first action, because in my head I was like, oh, I want to go get that money bag, but obviously I moved to the right. Now that next person's card flipped over, and now it's a money bag. They picked up the money bag, so now the money bag's not there. And now my next action, if it was pick up, doesn't do anything because there's nothing there to pick up. But a lot of different actions vary all that, and and the game looks amazing. Like obviously the 3D stuff and 3D landscape that you have in this game is really fun to mess with. Really solid party game here as well. Dead of Winter is a game that I wish I could play even more than I have already. It is basically, if you guys don't know, has a trader mechanic in the game. Basically, it is a co-op game with a trader and a mist of view. Basically, it's up to 5 people. It's a zombie apocalypse, basically. You're trying to survive the zombies, go out there, scavenge for supplies, scavenge for things, and you have crisis that you're trying to solve, like people are going hungry, you're trying to get supplies out there, and you're trying to beat these missions one at a time, and you have to add things in the mission. Let's say, the mission is, for a random example, it's more detailed than this, but random example is you need to start the car. So everyone has to contribute things and go find gas. And if everyone contributes gas into the pile, there's a trader mission. You don't know who that trader is, and they might add, something in there that's going to not be what you need. And it's basically, everyone thinks that, oh wait, we got it because we added 5 cards in there, and that's the 5 gas that we need. But then a trader added one of those cards, and he screwed up 2 of those cards in there for you, and he didn't add gas. There's only 3 gas in there as opposed to 5. And now but at the end of the round, when you reveal those cards, you find that out, and you're like, crap, we only have 3 gas. We just failed the mission. There's obviously a trader among us. But what's even crazier, you could always play with the trader if you want to, because you can manipulate the cards. But technically, the game tells you that you don't even know if there is a trader, because they give you, you randomize the cards more players than there actually are. So it's possible that there's no trader at all, and it's just a straight-up co-op game. But I really love this game with the anticipation that there could be a trader, but you don't even know if there is in the game, and all that in your head. The game's not that complicated. It's a solid mid-weight game. Really, really good game. They have some expansions for this game. Dead of Winter, and it has the core mechanic that made this game stand out to everyone is it had the Crisis... what was the actual name of what they used? The name of the cards are escaping me right now, and I can't believe that I'm actually forgetting. But basically what it is that when the player goes, if I'm going right now, the player behind me always has a card in his hand that basically is waiting for me to possibly do an action that it says. Let's say it's using a character, or my character dies, whatever it may be. If that action happens during my turn, they tell me to stop, and they read a story, and I have to choose what happens in that story. Whether it be, to choose option A or choose option B. And that can negatively affect us, or it can help us depending on what I choose. All different sorts of actions can happen there. I think it's called the Crisis deck. For some reason, that's what's hitting me on my head right now. Basically, that's the mechanic that really made this game stand out, and they're going to be putting it into future games as well. And then, the next person goes, and then I pick up a card, and then let's see if it happens to them and see if they do anything. Really cool mechanic, really adds story to the game. The things that are written on the card, take that story, really, really well done. Really hard choices to make, too, when those story choices come up. Next game on the list is Deception, Murder in Hong Kong, another great party game. This one goes up to 12 people. It's hard to get 12-player games, anything over 8 really, for party games. This is, if you remember Clue from back in the day, that's basically what this is. This is another game that has a hidden trainer mechanic in the game, except it's not a traitor. It's basically somebody who's trying to decept everyone and who's the murderer in the game. So basically everyone gets a set of cards in front of them. It could be either the item that they used and how they were actually killed. Everyone goes around the table. You're trying to figure out who the murderer is and figure out what weapon they used and who did it. And they're trying to stay, quiet in the game, and they have obviously helpers in the game to try and deter people from choosing the right item that they used and how they actually killed them. So when everyone else is discussing and be like, hey, I think you used that knife that's in front of you, and you killed them by suffocating them, for example. And you're trying to deduce, what did what based on the clues that somebody is giving you and leading you towards that information, because there's a forensic scientist in the game that's leading you to pick what clues should be what you should be gearing towards. So the forensic scientist can only give you certain clues. Obviously, they can't give you the exact words. And then the other people who are trying to mess with you are trying to steer you away from those by using, cryptic clues and stuff like that. But like, nah, it can't be that one. I don't know what you're talking about. There's no way it's this one, kind of thing. And you're trying to figure out who the murderer is. A great murder mystery game for 12 people. Like I said, it's hard to find games this large for a big of a crowd. Pursuit of Happiness, a 4-player game, is easily one of my top games that I'm currently playing. Basically, if you guys remember the game of Life, where all you did was go around the board, and it was awesome because you got married, you had kids and stuff like that, trying to get money, all those different events happened to you. Well, that game was not really a great game. It was just a great experience, and I played that game like crazy as a kid. But this game basically takes the game of life and actually makes it into a board game, where you actually get to choose, it's a worker placement game. And a worker placement game, if you guys don't know what that is basically you have a set of workers. In this game, it's like basically time that you have. You take the little time markers, and you put them on a spot on the board, and you take that action. And you use the workers or the placement things that you have on the board, and you take the actions that are on there. And then the next round begins in the next round. And this one's awesome because all the cards are still thematic. Obviously, you're going out there, you're trying to see if you want to be single in life. Do you want to get married? Do you want to have 2 wives? Do you want to have, whatever you want to do, all these different career paths that you can take as you can get a job in the game. All these things that you could do in your life depends on, and this game relies on happiness. Your goal in this game is to be as happy as possible at the end of the game, and not be as sad. And you're trying to do all these things to make you happy in the game. All these different cards are so cool because they have all these different events. Like, hey, won a PlayStation, won this event, play some video games, won a dance contest, all those different things, getting a job, all those different things that the Game of Life has. But it's actually in a board game now. You can even do community events. And you're always doing these events, and it's just a great. If you guys are fans of the Game of Life, you owe it to yourself to check this game out. It's a great worker placement game and a great theme on top of it, which is why it's easily one of my favorite games. Such a good game. Next one on my list here is Flick 'em Up. Flick 'em Up is one of those games that's what we call a dexterity game. It's basically when you take it gives you a scenario to play, and you can do this either, it's always a competitive thing, I believe, in Flick 'em Up, but there's also a different version that is Dead of Winter Flick 'em Up. Basically, the Dead of Winter game that I told you about before is now being put into the Flick 'em Up universe, and basically what it is, based on what version you're playing, one's a Western theme and one's the zombie theme. The Western theme one is usually just competitive with your other players, and the Dead of Winter is more of a co-op game, so you're always playing and trying to take out the zombies and stuff. And basically what it is you have a bunch of pieces in your hand, like wooden pieces or plastic, and you're flicking them to try and, you flick them on the table. You have these different guns that flick things in certain ways, and you're trying to flick the zombies out of the way or try to flick the people out of the way to complete whatever the scenario of that mission is. The scenario can be a variety of things. There's like 10 different scenarios in each box, I believe, and, they take you through different things. There's a bunch of different buildings and a bunch of different pieces to set the scenario, and you can go into stores and, get some bullets in there, knock some people out. It's a very good dexterity game, a lot of different variety with all the campaigns and missions that they're in the game. And like I said, there's 2 different versions. So if you like the Western theme, pick the Flick 'em Up version. If you like the Dead of Winter theme, then obviously, and the zombie theme, go with that one. And know that one's a co-op game, so it's more geared towards 5 of the missions on there are co-op based, so you're playing with your team as opposed to playing against them, and the other 5 are, actually competitive. Next one on the list is Fog of Love. This is a 2-player game, so this is a great game that me and my wife picked up, and it's a very interesting game. I haven't played anything like this before in any board game I've ever played. Basically, you're going through the life of trying to figure out if you guys are like, I want to say compatible, but like basically going through like a date and stuff like that, and when you're going through your partner and you're making choices to see if your partner is going to pick the same choice as you. You're going through life having a relationship with the other person. You don't have to play this game with you can play it with a friend or something like that. It doesn't have to be anybody you're in a relationship, like an actual, girlfriend or boyfriend or anything like that. But the theme of this game is not anything I've played before, and the way that this game works is also very different. It's definitely one you guys should check out if you're for a great 2-player game, and if you're into like relationship type games. It gives you a lot of different choices. It will tell you, a short story being like, hey, this happens in your life. What do you want to do? Do you want to do this option or that option? And then you're trying to raise your levels on the board based on happiness and how your wife is doing, and how your partner's doing on the other side. And you're trying to be as compatible as possible and try to pick the same choices as them. See where you land and see how compatible you guys are. Like I said, it's not just for people who are girlfriend or boyfriends. Obviously, it works great with that, but you can also play it with friends and stuff like that. Definitely a great looking game as well. For Sale is the next game we have on here, number 14. For Sale is what we like to call in the board game world as a filler. Basically, it's a game that you play before the real game of the night if you like to play multiple games, because this game is really short. Basically, what it is you have a bunch of houses and you're bidding the money that you start in the game to get to buy those houses as cheap as possible, going around the table by using a bidding mechanic and bidding for those houses with the money you started, and get as many houses as possible, because if they all have a number on top. And, obviously the higher the number, the better, but you don't want to bid all your money on one house. And then after that, round A is over, then round B, and then you're trying to sell those houses for as much money as possible. So it's a really quick push your luck / bidding game to play with up to 6 people. So that's a really solid game for a filler. One of my favorite fillers to go to. Next game on my list is actually one of my more recent games on this list, and it's called Grim Forest. It actually came off from Kickstarter. And Grim Forest has an amazing theme. It's basically the 3 little pigs, and you're going in there and you're trying to build your houses and try to build them as fast as possible. You're trying to build 3 houses. Doesn't matter what type they are, but some types are worth more than others. The straw, the wood, and stuff like that. But what makes this game stand out to me not only is how great the game looks, but you can actually get helpers in the game to actually help you on the cards. And the cards are actually from different fantasy tales. So Aladdin's in there, and all the other different characters are in there from different, Disney, not just Disney films, but just films in general, and different fantasy themes and stuff like that help you, and they give you certain abilities and stuff like that in the game. So basically, it's a race to try and finish those houses, and you're trying to get those houses done before the other person and get as many points in the game. But what really stands out in this game is the look of the game, and those cards just add a whole lot of fun for somebody who's a big fan of like Disney films and fantasy themes and stuff like that. That really makes this game stand out. Next game on the list is called Project Elite. It is my other game on here that is a real-time game, and it's easily the best real-time game I have ever played. Basically what it is you're in a zombie, you're trying to play co-op with your friends, obviously, and you get a mission, and there's a bunch of aliens showing up on the board, and you get all these cool weapons and stuff, and you're trying to kill all those aliens and trying to make it past each round and get to the end. You're rolling all these dice, going frantically, and you have a time limit, of course. What makes this game stand out compared to other real-time games is that this game has a real-time portion. A real-time portion of the game where there's 2 minutes on the clock. You're trying to frantically roll and kill these these aliens that are showing up and do all these crazy things and get them all eliminated off the board as much as possible. After those 2 minutes are over, you go back to the regular stage of the game, and now you go in there and you try to set up your characters. You have to get your weapons in order, reset all of that. So there's like a crazy hectic 2 minutes, and then you get some solid minutes to actually play the game and try to strategically plan out your next move. Really solid game. So many options, so many scenarios. Easily the best real-time game I've ever played, like I said. And what's good about this is the game is actually hard to find right now because it went out of print immediately when it came out. Luckily, there's a board game company called CMON. If you guys have never heard of them, they make some crazy games. We're going to mention a few of their games here because I really like that company. They do a solid job with some of their games, and they're actually re-releasing. They're taking it from the other company that made it, and they're going to re-release a new version coming up hopefully in the next couple. Well, it's coming out in 2019, but they're going to be on Kickstarter here in a couple of months, I believe. So look forward to that new release. They're going to be changing the art and adding some new things to that game. So that's a good way to get it if you guys can't find that. Next game on the list, number 17, is Heroes Wanted. If you guys want a hero game that is co-op but also competitive, which there's not a lot out there. There's either co-op or competitive. This one mixes both. Basically, what makes this game stand out, and what really makes it one of my favorite hero game on there. Basically, everyone creates their own hero based on different body parts. So you need a head, a middle, and your legs, and it comes up with these crazy looking things that you're trying to make up as a character. Everyone gets to make their own, and then there's 5 or 6 different missions that you can go to. You play through the first one, and the missions are very varied, and you're using your characters. You're trying to get as many points as possible, and there's newspapers at the top, newspaper clippings, which is really cool in this game, that basically gives you a headline of stuff that you're trying to accomplish in this game, and if you do, you get extra points for accomplishing it, whether it be, hit the villain 20 times, or collect, a bunch of barrels that are laying out on the floor, whatever it may be. This game is just a hell of a lot of fun. If you're into the superhero theme, I definitely recommend you guys check this one out if you want a co-op slash it's a co-op game because you're trying to compete towards the same goal because you need to defeat the villain and stuff like that. But you also have your own objectives that you're going for because the person who wins, there's only going to be one super villain at the end of the game. Or sorry, superhero that's going to win at the end of the game. So, really solid game, up to 5 players. This game came out a while ago and it's still one of my favorite superhero games. Next one on the list is called Jamaica. Jamaica at number 18 is a 6-player game. This is one of the first games I actually introduced my family to, and they instantly fell in love with it, and they're always asking about bringing this game back. The artwork in this game is outstanding. Basically, it is a move and roll game. You're going around the board, and you're trying to hit other ships and hit your other ships, but it's also a race. So you're trying to race around the board, but you're trying to get as much money as you can while going through there. You can either get money by different cards, or you can shoot other ships and take their money. All these different actions that you can do in this game, and the artwork is just outstanding, and the cards look so good. You upgrade your hold and stuff like that to carry more items in your ship and stuff like that. Really, really solid game. Definitely a family game, so very easy to teach and all that stuff. 6-player game, outstanding looking game, and it's a pirate theme, so there's not a crazy assortment amount of pirate games that are good. This one's easily the top of the rank, and it's obviously an older one too, and it still holds up. It's such a good game. Number 19 here is Junkart, another game for 6 people, and basically this is another dexterity game. This one's really cool because it basically has a bunch of different games that you can play, and it gives you a bunch of blocks you throw in the center of the game, and it has a different variety of games that you can play with those blocks, and it tells you this is for, different variety of people. And, you play these different games, one game you could be playing, whoever makes the highest tower without it falling. The next game you could be playing, you have to add these certain pieces in the tower structure. Basically, if you think of Jenga, but you actually put some actual gameplay into it, or you're actually competing for different scenario tiles, because each scenario is different. Like I said, you're doing different things. It's a solid dexterity game. If you're looking for a game like building blocks with Jenga and stuff like that, if you're into that sort of style of gameplay and you're looking for a game like that, but you want some variety in it depending on how you're building the structures and stuff like that, check this one out, Junkart. At number 20 is King of Tokyo / King of New York. I'm going to include both in one title because I actually own both of these. King of Tokyo is what we call Yahtzee. It has the Yahtzee mechanic. Basically, you roll a bunch of dice, and they all give you certain actions. Basically, everyone is a monster in this game. The more simple version, if you want to introduce this to your family, they even sell it at Target, is King of Tokyo. New York is a little bit more complicated. It came out afterwards. They're both for 6 people. You roll your dice, and basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to get your monster to get as many points as possible. Basically what it is in the center of the board, King of Tokyo, you're basically, if you're on the outside, every time you roll punches, you kill everybody. Everybody who's inside is getting punched. There can only be, I believe, 2 people in the center. So you're trying to, it basically has like this push your luck mechanic where you're trying to stay in the middle because you get more points while staying in the middle, more things that you need. But you can't heal while you're in the middle. You can't heal yourself even if you roll them on the dice. And also, you have to eventually get out. So, and if you last too long in there, you're just going to die, and then you're not going to get anything, and you're just out of the game. So if you're in the outside, though, every time you roll a punch, obviously you're hitting everybody in the middle. So it's this push your luck thing about being in the middle, knowing when to come out. And what makes this game really cool, besides the fact that you're beating each other up with monsters, was already cool in itself. There's a lot of different cards in the game that add a lot of cool mechanics in the game and a lot of cool special abilities that you can do in the game. And the graphics on the actual artwork and stuff on the cards is awesome. So this one's been around for a while as well. It's a really solid game. Definitely check this one out. So the next one on our list is Queen Domino for 4 people. Now, at number 21, Queen Domino is actually a sequel, basically, to King Domino, which is a really popular game. More simple game. Queen Domino basically took that formula and actually added a little bit more rules. It made it more gamerish, I guess you could say, which is what a lot of people wanted. And basically what it did is it took all those... It's basically, if you take a bunch of dominoes and you're trying to create a grid in front of you, and try to maximize your points by building your grid in a certain way. So you're trying to add these different pieces onto your board to maximize the amount of points that you actually have. That's basically what Queendomino is. It's a great tile laying game. That's the word I was thinking for. A tile laying game for 4 people. Definitely check this one out. It's not very complicated. It's just a little bit more complicated than what the base game is. I wouldn't even play the base game anymore. You just play Queendomino because it's not hard to understand. Kingdomino is just really easy. You can actually combine both of them and make an even bigger grid that you can play with instead of the 5x5. You can play 7x7. So there's that one. At number 22 is called Legendary. Legendary has been around for a long time. It's Marvel Legendary specifically, the one I'm talking about. It's for 5 people. Legendary basically is a board game. If you're a fan of the Marvel Universe, I know before we were talking about a hero game. This is specifically Marvel themed. So this, in my opinion, is my favorite, or definitely in my opinion, my favorite Marvel game, or superhero Marvel game theme that there is out there. Basically, it's a deck building game. Just like some of the other ones we talked about before, there's a board in front of you. Basically, villains are coming out, and you're trying to build your hand of cards by getting villains that are on top of the table, paying their cost, getting the heroes on top of the board, getting those and playing them so you can actually defeat the villains. And it's a co-op game. You're playing with other people. It's strictly co-op that you're playing in this game. And what's cool about this game is that there's a crap ton of options at this point because they've added so many expansions to the game that there's so many different heroes and villains to face. Each villain has their own scheme that they bring to the game, so it makes the gameplay a little bit varied depending on how you have to defeat them and how you have to play against them. And their minions that come with them and stuff like that are all varied and different as well. And you can always change them up, so you can have this villain one time, minions another time, and completely different gameplay. And then take your heroes and they all do their own special ability as well because you're picking your hero in the game. And then they're all being combined and adding with all their minions and henchmen and all that kind of stuff. So definitely a really solid game. If you're into the Marvel theme, I really like this one. The only negative that I would say about this one that may deter people away maybe is that there is a bit of a setup in this one. So you do have to obviously go through, find all the cards that you need because there's a lot of cards in the game, put them all together. You have to shuffle certain ones together, put them on the board. So there's a little bit of setup that you have to do in the game. But once you get a hang of it, it isn't too bad. But definitely know that's there is that in the game. The next one on the list is number 23, which is Looney Quest. And Looney Quest is basically if you're like a video game theme fan like me, if you think about like Rayman Legends, it's got like that theme going on it. Basically what it is it's a drawing game. Basically what it is everyone gets a sheet of clear paper and they are creating a line basically on let me tell you what's on the middle of the table first. So on the middle of the table there would be like a piece that tells you that this little critter has to get from here to point here. And along the way, there's like obstacles that you're not supposed to be hitting and coins that you have to pick up to get the most amount of points. Basically, what you do on your sheet, then your invisible sheet, is everyone's going to draw a line by looking at the center but not obviously placing it over it and try to draw a line that they think is going to hit those coins and hit those things that they are supposed to hit and not touch the things that they're not supposed to, make it from one end to the other. And then go in there, everyone around the table goes and puts the invisible sheet on top of there, see how many points they scored, and do the next thing for the next round. Each paper that you get is very varied. They have different things that you have to do. Sometimes you have to draw a line, like I said. Sometimes you have to draw circles around things. Sometimes you have to draw 4 straight lines. All these different variety of options that you're drawing and trying to picture whether you should put the line. A really good drawing game and a really fantastic theme that I like about this game. That's Looney Quest at number 23. Number 24 is Mansions of Madness, and that's specifically the 2nd edition. Now, I believe this is the only one on the list that actually requires an app on your iPhone or iPad or Android phone. But before that scares you away, this is running in theme. Basically, if you want to play a Halloween game and a scary game and like a mystery type of game, there's no better game than this on this list for sure. And in my opinion, in anything that I've played before. Basically, it makes this game really easy because the app walks you through a lot of the things, and you're experiencing this crazy story and trying to figure out what's going on. And you're exploring the mansion. There's a bunch of pieces, obviously, on the board, and you're going through exploring each room, trying to figure out what happened and why this guy died or stuff like that. And you're exploring it and trying to figure it out, and different things will happen depending on what room you enter. And obviously the app is walking you through some of this stuff, telling you, what happens when you enter a room. And the app has a lot of different missions, so there'll be some that are geared towards, 60 minutes, and some that are 90 minutes long, some that are 2 hours long, some that are 2.5 hours long. And there's already 2 expansions for this game, one that's out and one that's coming here shortly. The theme in this game really runs through it, and the app is completely well designed, like top to bottom. It's literally amazing. And it really puts you into the story. It has like the music vibe in the background, and just the way that the app walks you through things and makes it easier to teach to people, and how the story is being told and all like that is not anything I've seen in other board games very much. And it's a really solid game. Just know that you need an app. If you're into the mystery type of thing, trying to figure out a mystery. Oh, and don't forget that this game not only has you walking around the mansion and stuff like that, but there'll be puzzles in the game. So you'll get to a room where the door is locked, and you'll get an app. The app will pop up and say, hey, there's this puzzle you need to figure out, which is what makes the app cool, because you're interacting with the app. Now you have to figure out this puzzle on the app before you can get through that door and figure out what's going on behind there. And what's cool is that the game's always randomizing. Even if you play that same mission again, the tiles won't be in the same place. They won't come in the same order. The person won't be in the same place. You'll have the general idea of the story, obviously, but you won't know where anything is, where the items are hidden that you need or anything like that, because it's always changing. So makes for some decent replayability if you play with another group. Number 25 is Rhino Heroes Super Battle. 5-player game. This is a really cool game that basically is another dexterity game / Jenga type of game. You basically, on your turn, have to take your cardboard piece, and you have to add it to the top of the structure. You're trying to make the structure go as high as possible, and you have to move your little figure on top of there and try to get that figure as high as possible, because at the end of the game, if you make the whole tower collapse, then obviously you lose and everyone else wins. But if you make the tower collapse, then everyone else wins, and you're basically trying to climb to the top of that tower as fast as possible and as high as possible, but you're also trying to place these little cardboard pieces on the tower to make it, you have to always place the tower, and it tells you which direction you have to place it. It's a really cool game. It's really fascinating to look at when you have this thing like structured really tall. This is actually a sequel to Rhino Hero, which was a small 2-player game, and you can actually combine the two together to make it even a grander game, I believe. Then you can play with 6 people and make the tower even taller. So, at number 26, and before I go on, I accidentally made a wrong comment in the beginning of the video. I said this is the top 25. As you can see in the title, that was wrong. This is the top 30. So, anyway, number 26, Unfair. Now, there's never been a lot of themes in games. In the first, there's some themes that aren't well represented in board games, and this is the first one that came to my mind. There's a few out there now, but not most of them catch my attention. This one immediately did, and as soon as I got it, because it started off on Kickstarter, I was immediately amazed by the gameplay and loved every second of it. This is Unfair. Basically, the theme is creating your own theme park, basically managing your rides, creating your theme park, adding things to your theme park, expanding it to get more people to come to your theme park and make it as much money as possible. And basically, that's what this game is. It lets you have different themes there's different themes to the cards, dinosaur themes, water parks and all that stuff. And they actually have an expansion that just finished up on Kickstarter to release more themes to the game. So they added different theme card sets so you can play in there, and you mix a certain amount of themes together. So there's always variety, because you only use, I believe, 4 themes at the same time. You mix all those cards together. I believe the base game and the expansion maybe has like 8 or 10. I forget exactly how many. And a lot of different variety in the cards and stuff like that. And the artwork is awesome, and it just really gives you the vibe that you're playing a theme park game. And it's just awesome looking at all the pictures of the rides and stuff like that, seeing that you're creating a theme park. Awesome theme. More themes need to come out this way. Maybe someone else can make a theme of building a theme park and take it in a different direction than this one. But awesome game. One of my favorites. Definitely, obviously, heavily influenced because the theme is awesome. Number 27 is One Night Ultimate Werewolf. And One Night Ultimate Werewolf, if you guys have never played the game Ultimate Werewolf, which is where this derives from, this is basically One Night Ultimate Werewolf. Werewolf is a game, the regular edition is basically where everyone goes through the night, and you're trying to figure out who amongst you is a werewolf and everyone else is a villager. You're talking amongst the group, trying to figure out who's killing somebody every night. And you're going around introducing yourselves and having these conversations, being like, hey, is he the werewolf? Who's screwing us at night and killing us? And everyone has their own special ability. Well, not everyone, sorry. The villagers don't, but there's always like somebody in the group. Also, there's a seer in the group that also might know, who woke up in the middle of the night and has an idea on who that person, werewolf might be, but she can't outright say it, because at the end of the game, if the werewolf say who the seer is, then they automatically win because they determined who the seer was. So there's a lot of different conversations and stuff going on. And what this game does differently, One Night Ultimate Werewolf, hence the title of the game, is it's called One Night. So instead of this game dragging out for all the different nights, because each night one person gets eliminated, this is one night. Everyone has an ability. Basically, not everyone, but almost everyone has an ability except for the villagers. And you're trying to still figure out who the werewolves are, but it's one night only. There's an app that runs it on your phone that makes it a lot better. I believe the app is mandatory also in this game. And it walks you through and it tells you, hey, seer, wake up, and does all there's no moderator needed in this game, which is nice. The other game, you actually need a moderator running the game, because you need to say, hey, this person wake up, or this person do this, so there's a moderator. This one, the app takes care of all that for you, so everybody can play one night, over in 10 minutes, and you get to play it again. Awesome game. At number 28, sticking with a similar theme, is called Werewords. It actually has it's from the same makers and it has a similar vibe to it because you're still having all these cards trying to figure out, and everyone has their special ability and it has some of the mechanics of the other game. But what this one is you're trying to figure out what words somebody's saying. So basically, there's going to be a mayor in the game, and they're going to have a secret word that nobody else saw except for maybe somebody who had a special ability, like a seer or something, who may have seen what that word was. Everyone else wakes up, and they start asking questions like, hey, is this a thing? Is this a place? Is this an animal? Is it brown? Is it blue? Is it purple? And the mayor can't speak. He's just giving out tokens, yes or no or maybe, depending on what your questions are. And you're trying to figure out and deduce what that word is. As soon as you obviously say what the word is, you win. But there's somebody in the game who's trying to deter you from getting that word. They're trying to make the timer go like all the way to the bottom. You have like 8 minutes, I believe, and not let you guess the word. So it's a crazy game, just like the other game is. A really fun party game. I believe this plays up to 20 people, which is, I don't know if that sounds right. I thought it was 10. There's actually an Ultimate Edition coming out here shortly. It actually comes out in a few days, so definitely check that one out. Next game on the list is called Arcadia Quest. I really, really like this game. It is a 4-player game. There's a lot of expansions for this game. Basically, it's in a fantasy-themed world. Everybody has a little character, and the characters look friggin' awesome. This is from the makers of CMON that I was talking about before. And this is my favorite game that they've made, with a couple of other ones running up close second. Basically what it is you create a map, you create like a dungeon kind of thing. There's different quests that you're trying to fulfill in the game, and you're trying to either attack people, but you only have a certain quest. You can't just attack somebody the whole entire game, basically, because you only get the points that you need when you attack the certain people that are in the game. So this game heavily relies on there being a lot of interaction. The game is okay at 2, but better at 3 and perfect at 4. This game is meant to be played as a 4-player game, because there's some more interaction, there's more things going on, and there's more. The game will take longer. If you play a 2-player game, you're going to end a lot quicker. But there's all these different quests that you're trying to fulfill, whether it be go to this quest marker on the board and pick it up, or go smack your opponent around and kill their figure. All these kinds of things, and you're upgrading your characters, and the expansions add pets in the game, so you can have your own pet or mounts that's coming out soon. All these different weapons and abilities that you have, and it's just a crazy Royal Rumble in the middle of the game. And it's easily my favorite game that company has made, and I really like it, and I think you guys should definitely check that out if you're into like the dungeon crawler-ish fantasy vibe game. Definitely check that one out. The last one we're going to leave off here is Vikings Gone Wild. It's a deck-building game also, and it's a 4-player game, which really makes this one stand out. Crazy variety in the game. First of all, there's a lot of different cards in the game that let you do different things. And you're basically building your deck, and it's a beer. The currency in the game is beer, which is also makes a little bit more of a fun theme. And you're trying to go, and you're obviously a Viking in the game. You're trying to obviously build your deck to get more powerful and build the best hand that you obviously can. Trying to get the most points at the end of the game. And there's different missions on the board that change every game, which is nice. Different mission cards on the board that will tell you, hey, you have to collect this much beer at the end. Collect this many things or this many buildings or whatever it may be, and all those cards are always changing every game because you only play with a certain amount every game. So there's a lot of variety in this one. I really like this deck building game. A lot of different options in this game, so definitely check this one out if you're a fan of deck building. That is my number 30. And the honorable mentions, we're going to make a few honorable mentions that we're going to talk about just for a second. Happy Salmon, a great party game for 6 people, and you can add 2 together to make it 12 because I added another one now. Basically, it's one of those quirky games. Everyone goes around the table. You have to look for somebody who's doing the same action as you who has it on the card. So one of the actions will be, switch seats. Or switcheroo is what they call it. You have to find someone else who has that card at the same time and then go switch seats. And you're trying to get through your hand of cards, trying to get through the hand of cards that you have, the 12 that you start with, and they'll each have like a thing on there which is switcheroo or Happy Salmon and stuff like that. You're trying to find the other person that has that same card and do what they're doing, finish your hand of cards first. Magic Maze is a great 8-player game. It's a co-op game, and basically it's a game that no one can actually technically speak, and you're moving pieces around the board, and only certain pieces can move in certain spots, and you're trying to figure out, how to get to the end of the board and trying to exit, basically, but you're not able to talk to each other, so communication is all done by specific actions in the game. Really interesting and different co-op game that I've ever played. Definitely check that one out. Secret Hitler almost made my list. It's a take on Werewolf that I was talking about before. And Secret Hitler is basically a different variation of that, where you're trying to obviously find out who's Hitler in the game, and you're on the fascist group or the other group, and you're trying to figure out who's on whose team. And you're trying to pass these policies and figure out who's playing the bad policies. It's got a Resistance vibe to it. If you guys have played that game, that's definitely what it mostly resembles. It probably doesn't resemble Werewolf as much as it resembles Resistance. And the last game is made by Simon that I was talking about before, one of the other games that I also have and I really like playing, Zombicide. Basically a 6-player zombie game where you're building a map in front of you and have the different missions and stuff that you're trying to do, whether it be escaping or filling a car with gas and then getting out. And you're trying to go through there, go through rooms, search for different weapons and different items in the game to make yourself more powerful, demolish all these zombies that keep spawning on the map. Definitely a co-op game, and then go out there and beat all these zombies, and then do whatever your objective is. Really solid 6-player game. Really easy to play as well. Really easy to get into. A variety of missions have been made for this game. Specifically, I don't know if I mentioned Zombicide Black Plague is my favorite one. They came out with Zombicide, and then they came out with Black Plague and a fantasy-themed version of it, which is the one I have because they fixed a little bit of the quirks that I didn't like in the first one. So they fixed that in the Black Plague edition, so that's the version I have. But they're still both solid option. If you like the more zombies theme of the first one instead of the fantasy theme, you won't go wrong regardless. And that is my top 30 games, guys, that I'm currently playing of board games. I hope you guys enjoyed that list. Like I said, this is an ever-changing list. Next year, I guarantee you half these games will be changed up because it's always games that, the games that I'm like playing this year, and they're always changing because I'm always rotating things in and out. Even though I can guarantee you the games that are on this list won't be leaving my collection anytime soon because obviously they're in my top 30 for a reason. So these won't be leaving next year or, in a year's time or anything like that. They just won't be on this list or they'll be moved down, I have a lot of games. I play, like I said, I've played over 500 games and I have over 250. So being in the top 30, obviously things are always going to be rotating around. So anyway, look forward to my next video on board games like I talked about, which is going to be my top either 10 or 20, depending on how many games I end up liking this year. Here in a few months here when the year ends, I'll be doing a top board games for that. And, of course, next year we'll be going back onto this list, see how much this list changed compared to this year. So, anyways, guys, if you guys have any questions about any of the games that you saw or you want any information about anything you saw, of course, leave them down below. If not, thank you guys for watching. Until next time.
Gaming Techie is the gaming tech. Gaming Techie, gaming tech. Eating brekkie is the gaming tech. Going for a recce is the gaming tech.